Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I'm sorry, dear, but I have to work late tonight. I won't be able to go to the dance. Oh, Mike, what a pity. I even bought a new dress especially for you. Why don't you go? Alone? Well, John and Cheryl are coming. You can ask them to take you. John was a midfielder, so I'm sure he can take care of you. Cheryl is pregnant, so she won't drink. I'm sure John will save some dances for you, and I think there will be single men who will be happy to dance with you. I heard they're taking their neighbors Kim and Beverly with them. These cheaters will get all the attention. No one wants to dance with an old married lady. Karen, you're not old at all. You're very attractive. Kim and Beverly are single, so there's nothing wrong with them dating guys and even going to their house. I'm sure you'll find a lot of men who will gladly hug you for a couple of dances. Are you sure that's okay with you? Be careful and make sure that John and Cheryl are not lost sight of for more than a few minutes. I trust you. Now go have fun. Okay, honey. I love you. Well, it would certainly be better than staying at home. I called John and he agreed to take me. I had dinner and got ready. Not bad. 35 years old, but still youthful. Shoulder-length black hair framing her face and setting off her blue eyes. My new dress really flattered my slender figure, ending just above the knee and showing a little more cleavage than usual. I know I can't compete with the 23-year-old twins who are coming with us, but that's okay. It's just dancing, I told myself, and I'm going home to my husband. Just at that moment, John's car pulled up. The two cheaters moved over and I sat down. Okay, I knew they weren't cheating, just young, beautiful, and full of life. I smiled at them. You're dressed to kill. Our table will definitely not lack for male attention. Could you save some for me? They laughed and Beverly said, Karen, you look amazing yourself. Don't worry, you're one of us today. We got to the club and sat down at a table. John, thank you so much for bringing me. I know Mike would never have let me come if you hadn't been looking out for me. Judging by the way you look tonight, I'd love to keep an eye on you, John teased. What would you ladies like to drink? We ordered drinks and John went to get them. The band was just getting ready, and 3 men came up to our table. 2 men, who looked to be in their 20s, started chatting with Beverly and Kim. The third introduced himself to me as Justin. We talked for a while and he seemed very charming to me. A little older than me maybe, but attractive and very fit. The 2 young men seemed to be competing with each other for the girls' attention. Kim stood up. Guys, we'll be right back. Karen and Beverly, I need to go to the ladies' room. Shall we go? We got up and followed her. We need to do something to organize the boys, Kim said, closing the ladies' room door. I only want to dance with Bill. Is this normal? That's fine with me, Beverly said. I think I like Robert. But how can we leave the boys with no choice? It's a pity that we're not identical twins. Then they wouldn't care. Kim laughed. Then she clapped her hands and said, I'll give Bill my panties. I'll tell him he has to give them back to me. But whether it's tonight or tomorrow morning depends on how he behaves. She reached under her short skirt and pulled off her panties. We all burst out laughing. It might work. Beverly chuckled. She reached under her dress and pulled off her panties. I'll give mine to Robert. What about you, Karen? You don't want Justin to feel left out? Beverly, I'm a married woman. I laughed. I can't do this. Anyway, Justin won't go for it. He knows he won't take me home. Oh, Karen, live a little. Upgrade your limits. He is unlikely to refuse. Be young today, Karen. Try it. The band started playing and I went over to Justin. Will you dance this dance with me? It is a great honor for me. When we reached the playground, I shoved my panties into his hand. Don't look. Put it in your pocket. What is it? These are my panties, I whispered as we started dancing. He raised his eyebrows questioningly. The girls wanted the boys to stop fighting over who was going to dance with whom. Therefore, each gave the panties to one. The deal is that they have to return them on demand either tonight or, if they play their cards right, tomorrow morning. Justin laughed. And I get the same thing? Unfortunately, no. I'm afraid you've drawn the short straw. I'm not going to cheat on my husband. John will take me home. If you want, return them and try your luck elsewhere. Karen, I'm older than these kids. I'm not looking for a bill every night. I'm holding a beautiful woman. She is a wonderful dancer with a charming personality. If I can dance with her all evening, I'll consider it one of my best dances in a long time. Thank you, Justin, you are very kind. but I still feel sorry for you. There are many more beautiful women here. You can find a better one." "I disagree. I'll tell you what. I usually act like a real gentleman, but if you feel you have to make amends to me, let me be a little more direct than usual." "What are you talking about?" "Nothing that would embarrass. For example, maybe I'll hug you a little tighter, like that. And if you're uncomfortable, just tell me and I'll stop." I say, "Will you stop right now?" And I promised my husband that I would never leave John's field of vision for more than a few minutes. "It's all right. You're in control of everything. I promise that I will never pass by the word no. Agreed?" "Okay," I grinned, hugging him closer to me. "I think it might be fun." We danced quite close to our table, but now he danced with me to the other side of the room. He smiled and asked, "Are these really your panties?" I laughed. "You can check and see." "All right," he said. I squeaked softly. "I don't think that's what I meant." "Maybe not, but my way is better." He smiled and squeezed my hand. "Very good." We sat down and John made us drinks. "I kind of lost you there for a while." I took a sip from my glass. "You don't have to watch me every second, John. Mike and I agreed that I would not disappear from your sight for more than a few minutes. I'm safe here. And Justin is a real gentleman." Not today, I thought. As evening approached, we became a little bolder. We mostly danced around the table, but every few minutes we moved away. During the slow dance, he held me close to him and I could rub against his hardness a little. One day, when we were waltzing, he looked at my cleavage for a long time. Whenever we did something, we smiled and giggled like kids who get away with something. We never did anything but quick, playful teasing, but I could tell we were both horny. Even when we weren't doing anything, I was worried, thinking about what I could do or fantasizing about what he might try. And I think knowing that was exciting for both of us. We danced, drank, and flirted for several hours when we sat down to catch our breath. I asked John, "How are the girls?" He laughed. "Great, I don't think they'll come back." "Well, Cheryl, are you tired? When do you want to come home?" John and I danced a few dances. "It was fun, but I'm a little tired. Let's say another 15 minutes. "It's all right, come on, Justin. Let's not waste time." The perfect gentleman and I danced in front of our table, and then a slow dance began, and we danced in the crowd. He pulled me closer to him, then put his hand on my head and put it on his shoulder. I smiled slyly and nuzzled his neck, then kissed him several times and bit him lightly. I felt his erection and pressed into it. "You're being very naughty," he breathed. "I just like that I can excite a man. I'm counting on your promise about the word no." "Karen, you're beautiful. You can arouse any man you want. But be careful because you're too excited to say no," he warned and bent down to kiss me passionately. Our tongues touched and I pulled away. We weren't that far from John. "Not here," I said. Justin bit my ear and whispered, "When you're ready to leave, tell John you'll walk me to my car. Tell him to set the timer for 5 minutes until you get back. Then we can say goodbye properly and end a wonderful night with dignity." "Okay," I grinned and hugged him tightly. "After all, I have to give you back your panties. Maybe I can put them on you," I laughed. "I don't know." We danced another dance in front of our table when John went to check on the girls. Despite the fact that we behaved well, the tension between us was palpable. John came back and said, "The girls won't need my services as a driver. Shall we go?" Justin came out with me. When we got to the door, I turned to John and said, "While you're picking up the car, I'll walk Justin to his car. Cheryl, set the timer. If I'm not back in 5 minutes, send a search party. We can't let this scoundrel take advantage of me." "Hey," Justin protested. "I behaved well today." Cheryl laughed. "No, I'll set a stopwatch. You're going to have to explain to Mike every second." "Great, hold my purse and start." She was fiddling with her phone. "Go on." Justin and I ran into the parking lot holding hands and laughing hysterically. Justin pulled out the remote control to unlock the car, and we ran. He opened the back door. "I'm not getting in your car," I said. "Just stay here, outside the door. It will be more private," he said. "And now how about a kiss?" "Well, you definitely deserve a little reward for tonight," I purred. I smiled, put my arms around his neck and kissed him. Our lips parted and our tongues danced. He put his arm around my waist and hugged me tightly. "Sorry for the rush, but we only have a few minutes left," he breathed, bumping into me. I was gasping for air when I felt him putting my panties back on. He pulled me to my feet and gave me a quick kiss. Hurry up, the clock is ticking. Oh my God, I thought. How long have we been gone? I ran and saw John pulling up with the car. Cheryl touched the phone. Not bad, 6:23. We don't have anything to tell Mike, she laughed. She looked at me. God, Karen, you didn't have to run so hard. You're all red and out of breath. I climbed into the back seat and collapsed. We were halfway home when the fog began to clear. Oh my God, what have I done? I changed my shirt. How could Justin do this? But then I remembered that I had agreed that he could take liberties with me, but would stop when I said no. Why didn't I say that? He even warned me that I might be too horny to remember. I got out of the car and saw Mike's car in the driveway. What should I do now? I walked through the door and saw Mike smiling at me. I have to go to the bathroom, I shouted and ran up the stairs. I took off my clothes and shoved my soaked panties deeper into the laundry basket. My dress was a little dirty, but it didn't catch my eye. I'll take it to the dry cleaners tomorrow. I took a very thorough shower and used a handheld shower head. Since I sleep naked, I came out of the bathroom like that. Mike was getting ready for bed himself. Mike smiled at me and said, I just talked to John. He told me that you had a really good time. I told you you don't need partners, although apparently it was only one. You must be tired. Are you ready to go to bed? I smiled and pushed the guilt away. I'm tired. I must have danced for 3 whole hours. Yes, it was with one guy. His name is Justin. He's a little older than us. I don't even know his last name. I don't know where he works or anything about him. Well, except that he was a good dancer. But I'd rather be with you. The new dress you're wearing looks really cute. I laughed. Well, you know, if you want to see this dress on me, you'll just have to ask me to dance. Okay, next time I promise. This project is almost complete. Another week or so and it will be over, and then I promise to take you with me. It's going to be a date, but now I'm very tired. Do you mind if we just go to bed? I'm tired too, I just got back. I love you, darling. I love you too, darling. Good night. Mike fell asleep immediately. I didn't sleep for a long time trying to make sense of this evening. I can't blame Justin. True, I told him that I wasn't going to cheat on my husband, but I didn't stop him. And when a man holds a seriously aroused woman in his arms, he accepts everything she gives him. I have to admit I had more fun than I've had in a long time. I'm in the arms of a handsome stranger who was obviously attracted to me. Even the ending was impressive. When we kissed, we held each other so tightly, and when I felt his hand caressing my bare ass, I felt hotter than ever. But then there was a terrible crash when I realized what I had done. I decided that I could keep tonight as a pleasant memory and never betray Mike again. With that thought in mind, I turned to Mike, gently stroked him, and fell asleep hugging him. 2 weeks later. Wow, honey, this dress suits you. No wonder you had no trouble finding dance partners. I felt myself blushing. Thanks, Mike, but it was only one. Well, I'm sure you broke his heart when you came back to me. Shall we go? We got to the club. After drinking, he took me to the dance floor. As we danced, I thought back to the last time I was here and thought, my husband definitely deserves what I gave Justin. In the next slow dance, I pulled Mike to me, kissed his neck, and rubbed against him. Mike smiled at me. You're awfully frisky. Will I be lucky today? That's right. Tonight and as often as you want for the rest of your life. We were sitting and sipping drinks when I heard a familiar voice. Karen, how nice to see you again. Will you introduce me to my husband? I felt my heart jump into my throat. Darling, this is Justin, the man I danced with 2 weeks ago when you couldn't come. Justin, this is my husband, Mike. Mike stood up and they shook hands. Thanks for taking care of Karen, he laughed. She told me that she had a lot of fun. She was afraid that she would not find partners. Oh, I don't think that's something to be afraid of. She is a wonderful woman and a great dancer. By the way, may I ask your permission to ask her to dance? Mike nodded and Justin held out his hand to me. If I can. I took his hand and he led me to the dance floor. While we were dancing, I tried to stay as far away as possible. He chuckled. I'm glad to hear that you had fun. Are you really mad at me? I sighed. Yes, I'm a little upset, but I have to admit that you kept your word. You even warned me that I might forget to stop you. I'm much more angry with myself. I was acting like a stupid schoolgirl, flirting with a stranger and then following him to his car. It's true that I had fun until the very end, but I really hate this ending. Yes, it was rather hasty, wasn't it? I'm sorry about that. However, those few minutes gave me one of the most intense erotic experiences of my life. I smiled and relaxed a little. It was very stressful for me too. Maybe we could meet again and see what we can do with more time? Let me say this right now before I forget. No. Karen, please. I know you liked it. After all, you did everything to me the same way I did to you. Tell me the truth. You've enjoyed every minute of it. I blushed thinking about it. Yes, Justin, I admit it was great. I am sure that I will remember this with love for a long time, but it must never happen again. I love my husband, and I never want to hurt him. Well, I liked it so much that I kept a souvenir for myself. While you were unconscious, I managed to take a couple of pictures. They came out great. My new phone has a low light setting. I took a close-up of your face and another shot that shows your whole body with your dress at the waist. I got weak and stumbled, but he supported me and we continued our dance. Please, Justin, I sobbed. What are you going to do with them? Why don't you invite me to your place next week? I can show them to you and we can look at them and discuss it. Just to talk? Well, I was hoping that we could pick up where we left off. I could have given you much better memories. Or we could just show Mike the photos right now. My heart skipped a beat. Just once and you'll leave? Of course, don't you agree? We need to fix this. He handed me a handkerchief. Here, wipe your eyes. We need to get back. Well, what should I do? I had no intention of making love last time, and I still don't know how I let it get this far. This time I was going to let him use me. Can I trust that Justin will keep his word? What would Mike do if he saw the photos? Did I have a choice? Wait, Justin doesn't know where I live. I'll just give him a fake address and try never to see him again. God help me. Come to my house on Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I live at the address. I know where you live, Karen. I followed John's car and saw where he dropped you off. See you then. He took my hand and led me to our table. He brought my hand to his lips and kissed it gently. Here she is, Mike, as good as ever. You are a very happy person. Get her out on the dance floor before someone else grabs her and you lose her forever. Mike laughed and turned to me. I think I'll do that. Shall we dance? The next few dances were a blur as my thoughts were far away. Oh my God, he's coming on Tuesday. I have to be there, otherwise he'll just come over tonight and talk to Mike. I realized that I knew what I had to do. I'm going to take a big risk, but I really don't have a choice. Then a slow song started playing, one of our favorites. I pulled Mike to me and rested my head on his shoulder as we swayed to the beat of the music. When it was over, I kissed him hard and whispered, I really need to make love to you. Of course, dear. I'll go get the car. No, I'll come with you, I said, and held his hand tightly all the way to the car. When we got home, I dragged him upstairs to the bedroom. Then I started unbuttoning his shirt. You're wearing too many clothes, sir. Let me help you with this, I purred. I took off my shirt, unbuttoned my trousers, and pulled them off along with my boxers. I pushed him onto the bed and took everything off him. Well, now I think I'm wearing too many clothes. Turn on the soft jazz. When the music started playing, I swayed sensually. Turning my back to him, I slowly unzipped the zipper. Turning, I picked up the dress and slowly let it go until it fell to the floor. I turned around and, swaying my hips, walked away, taking off my bra. I stopped, grabbed my panties, and keeping my knees straight, bent over, lowering them to the floor. Thank God there is yoga. I stayed like that for a while, swaying slightly and giving him a good look at my labia between my buttocks. I got up slowly, stroking my sides, turned around and, like a model, walked back to the bed. I smiled at him and said, You're not done, honey. My poor kitty needs some attention. Mike looked completely exhausted. He looked at me and muttered, It's a miracle. Dancing tonight, we were far from each other like an old married couple. I remembered what young love is. That's why I pulled you to me and held you so tightly. I love you, honey. I wanted our lovemaking today to be really special, just to show you how much, very much I love you. Now please, just hug me. We turned to put our heads back on the pillows, and I turned on my side, turning away. I pulled his hand to me, squeezed it tightly, and felt his warmth on my back. It took a long time before I could fall asleep. Yes, I wanted to make tonight special, because I was afraid that this might be our last time. When I heard the doorbell ring, I shuddered and took a deep breath. This is it, I thought, opened the door and let Justin in. Why, Karen, are you wearing a sweater and jeans? You didn't get dressed for me? He said. I'm sorry. I do not know the dress code for Blackmail, but before we do anything, I need to see these photos. Of course, my dear, I printed them out. They are copies. As you can see, they're pretty good. I'm sure your husband is Mike, isn't it? He will find them very interesting. I looked at them. They were quite frank. You bastard. They can ruin my marriage. It's not necessary, but it's entirely up to you. Just today and I'll never see you again? Karen, don't be such a bore. No more than once a week, I promise. Who knows? Maybe someday you'll even start looking forward to it. You really don't have much choice, do you? He grabbed my hoodie and started pulling it off. As soon as the hem of my hoodie reached my bra, I hit him as hard as I could. Now, officers, I shouted. Justin froze when a policeman came through the door, and another one appeared from the kitchen with handcuffs. Sir, please put your hands behind your back. You are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Justin stood with a gray face while the policeman read him his rights. I looked at him angrily and said, I don't have much choice. I pray that my marriage will survive at least one indiscretion, but he'll never get over me becoming your slave for the rest of my life. When one officer took him away, the other turned to me and said, Ma'am, can you come to the station and give a witness statement? Of course. Could you take me there? I'm too shaken up to drive, but I want to get this over with. Have you recorded everything? Yes, ma'am. I don't think the district attorney will have a problem with this case. Are you ready to go? Heading to the station, I thought that was actually the easiest part. But how am I going to meet Mike? Karen? I was just going home. Are you okay? Not really, honey. I'm sorry to bother you at work, but on the way home, could you pick me up at the police station? Good. Let me think about it. Do I need to bail you out? I was so glad that Mike is a thoughtful, serious person. Many husbands would probably go crazy. I hope so tonight. No, dear, I didn't do anything illegal. I'll explain everything tonight. Just drive up to the entrance. I'll be waiting outside. Give me 10 minutes. I love you. God, I hope that's enough. I love you too. Soon he pulls up. I sit down and kiss him. Before he can say anything, I say, I need to tell a long story that will go better after a drink. Okay, honey, I can see that you're very nervous. You're shaking like a leaf. I closed my eyes and tried to relax. I'm fine. Just take us home. I got out of the car, ran to the kitchen, and made us our favorite drinks. I sat down on the couch next to Mike and took a big sip. I looked at Mike and said, Honey, I love you very much. I know that you love me, and I hope that's enough. But I behaved very badly at the dance 2 weeks ago. I went on to tell him how I'd come to give Justin my panties, and about the deal I'd made with him that he might be a little faster, but would stop if I said no. How we mostly danced where John and Cheryl could see us, but every few minutes we would dive into the crowd and do something indecent. How indecent is it? Mike interrupted. One time he squeezed my ass, and the other time I could have run into him, or he'll give me a quick peck on the lips and I'll nuzzle his neck, something like that. Nothing we did lasted more than a few seconds. Then we giggled like school children who got away with something. But I have to admit that between all this flirting and dancing with a stranger who knew I wasn't wearing panties, I got seriously turned on. And then I made the biggest mistake. During the last dance, he tried to really kiss me. I pushed him away and said, Not here. Was that your biggest mistake? Honey, I should have said no, but not here actually means yes. He suggested that when we were ready to go, I would walk him to the car and kiss him, and I didn't even think to refuse. In the end, I already agreed. Cheryl even noticed the time, so I was supposed to be back in a few minutes. I had to stop to take a few breaths. I took Mike's hands and looked into his eyes. Honey, I had a few drinks, but I wasn't drunk. When we got to his car, he opened the back door. I refused to get into his car. Instead, I stood with my back to her while he kissed me passionately. In fact, I was back before John drove up in the car. Darling, I'm so sorry. I didn't want this to happen, but that's not an excuse. I should never have put myself in this position, and I swear I will never do it again. Mike stared at me for a long time, and I could barely breathe. Why didn't you tell me then? I sobbed. When I came home, I felt so guilty. I couldn't even look at you. I ran to the bathroom and tried to wash everything off. When I calmed down, I realized that it was useless to tell you. It would hurt you, and I knew that I would never betray you again no matter what it took. Justin didn't even know my last name. We'll never see him again. Mike frowned. And then we met him. When Justin came to our table, I thought I was going to die, but I couldn't give up dancing. While we were dancing, he tried to convince me to see him again. Honey, I may have been very stupid, but I'm not stupid. I realized that it would be more than once. If I give in to him, he will hold me forever. There is only one way to deal with blackmail. The truth. I knew I had to tell you, but I also didn't want him to leave unscathed. That's why I told him to come here this afternoon. He already knew where we lived. He was watching John's car. Yesterday, I went to the police and filed a complaint against him. The problem was that I didn't have hard evidence. Hell, I didn't even know his last name and I didn't know how to find him. They set up an ambush. They waited in the house and recorded his threats. He will spend the next few years in prison. Mike got up and began pacing the room. He looked at me and said, "Karen, I admit that you did very well today, but you crossed the line the moment you gave him your panties and decided to let him touch you. Isn't that clear?" Oh dear, I see it now. When the twins came up with the idea of panties and tried to convince me to do it, at first I said no, but it just seemed so exciting. They are so young, and joining them made me feel young too. And I thought, really, what's wrong? It's just a piece of cloth. Of course, I wasn't going to do anything with it. When he offered to flirt a little, it was also exciting. From there, a series of tiny steps followed, which turned into treason. I never wanted to betray you. I know I made a lot of bad decisions that night. I put myself in a position where I wasn't able to consciously make a choice. That's why I told you that saying "not here" was my biggest mistake. When I said that, I basically agreed to go somewhere private to kiss him. Now I realize that as soon as I started kissing him. From that moment on, nothing depended on my consciousness. Please, dear. You have a wife who loves you and will never hurt you again. Please don't leave her because of a few hours of stupidity and 2 minutes in the back seat of a car. Mike thought for a long time while I waited nervously. Weren't you tempted to accept his offer? I sobbed. God, no, I have no interest in him. I enjoyed it while it was happening, but then I felt sick. Even if you kick me out, I will never touch him again. I admit I thought about giving in to him, but if I could believe that it would be one time and I could just get away with it and leave it all behind. But then I realized something. After that first time, I promised myself that I would never betray you again, no matter what. If I had allowed him to use me for any reason, I would have betrayed you. I realized that I had to refuse him, even at the cost of my marriage or even a chance at future happiness. And in any case, it would be more than once. Justin confirmed it today. I would be at his mercy until he got tired of me. Mike sat in thought. I almost wished he would yell at me. His disappointed look was much worse. Suppose you said no when he started kissing you during that last dance, or even went ahead and kissed him passionately right there, and then just came home. Would you tell me about it? How would you feel when you met Justin again? I've never thought about it. I don't know, I muttered. I'm hungry, he said. I'm going to Ralph's, sit in a booth, have a couple beers and some ribs and think about it. Please think about my questions. I'll be back late. He's gone. I got up and wandered around the kitchen for a while, then decided I wasn't hungry and just went to bed. Once in bed, I tried to figure out what Mike meant by his questions. Suppose I said no, or just dragged him to the other side of the room, kissed him as I intended, and then went home. Would I tell Mike that I gave a man my panties? Hell no. I told myself that everything I did until the very end was just an innocent game, but since I had to keep it a secret from Mike, it clearly wasn't. I probably would have gone home so horny that I would have dragged Mike into bed and used him. But I would have been thinking about Justin. How would I feel about Justin? He would become a precious memory for me, which I would fondly recall from time to time. When I met him at the dance again, I couldn't wait to dance with him. I would thank him for a wonderful time. The feelings I had would come back. We wouldn't do much right there next to my husband, but I could let him dance with me in the crowd and playfully squeeze my ass, and I would smile and wink at him. Suppose he asked me to have lunch with him one day during the week. Would I agree? Maybe. Well, probably. After all, it would be fun. I'd be out in public, and I knew I could trust him. What would lunch be like? Of course, I would like to do more innocent flirting. After all our relationships were based on flirting. I could only imagine. It's just going to be lunch, so I'm going to wear a skirt and blouse. Well, the skirt may be a little shorter than I usually wear, and the blouse may show a little more cleavage. Hell, I could even give him my panties again and tell him it's a symbol of our deal. As long as I let him hold my panties, we can be frisky, but he'll never go beyond the word no. He would take me to a restaurant where we could sit in a booth. We would order drinks, and while we were waiting for them, he would put his hand on my knee and squeeze it, or maybe slide up my thigh a few inches. There would be a lot of little touches and smiles when we looked into each other's eyes. During the meal, we both became bolder. I accidentally bent down so that he could look under my blouse, and his hand slid a little higher along my thigh. When he took me home, would I invite him in? Maybe I would have told him that it was just to kiss him goodbye so that the neighbors wouldn't see. Then he wouldn't even have to hurry. We shared a long, slow, loving kiss, his hands wandering. If he had said something like, "I've been looking under your blouse all day, oh my God," if Justin had been a little more patient, or I was a little less horny on the first night, I might have been on my way to having an affair with him. Hell, I could even spend today using it. Then I would try to act naturally with Mike, dreaming about Justin all the time and looking forward to our next date. I was overcome with guilt. A few hours later, I heard the front door banging, and then Mike's footsteps coming up the stairs. I put on a robe and rushed to him. I saw that he was about to enter the guest room. I hugged him and sobbed. "Honey, please don't leave me. I was such a fool." I thought my only big mistake was a slip of the tongue, but now I realize that everything I did back then was a betrayal from the very beginning. I let a man seduce me for 3 hours. Hell, I even helped him seduce me. You were right. The problem was that I encouraged the man. If Justin hadn't pushed me too early, I probably would have had an affair with him. I promise I will never let this happen again. In fact, I will never do anything to anyone that I wouldn't do if you were around. Please give me another chance. Mike sighed and hugged me, and I sobbed softly. Karen, that's exactly what I wanted to hear from you. But you had to figure it out for yourself. I wanted you to see that by letting Justin turn you on to this extent, you've destroyed your defenses. Actually, I'm surprised Justin resorted to blackmail. If he spent a couple of dances remembering how much he enjoyed flirting, he could get you to accept an offer to invite you to dinner. After all, at that time you thought the only mistake was to go somewhere private. You could become even more frisky when no one you know was watching, and even more in the semi-privacy of his car when he drives you home. I doubt you could have resisted inviting him in. I sobbed even harder. Yes, Mike, I've already figured that out. Please, honey, I begged. Let's go to our bed. I really, really need to feel you today. I'm so scared. All right, Karen, I won't leave you alone today, but I'm not sure about tomorrow. That night, when we were lying in bed, I held him tightly, as if he could disappear if I let him go. The Epilogue. Justin has pleaded not guilty. He decided that I would be too embarrassed to testify in open court and reveal my infidelity, but with Mike's support, I was able to withstand cross-examination and looked him in the eye when he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. There was tension between Mike and me for a long time. We had a lot of difficult conversations over the next few weeks, and he spent many nights in the guest room. Gradually, I managed to convince him that I understood everything. I promised him that I would never keep secrets from him, and that the best way to achieve this was to make sure that I never needed to do it. He had a lot of anger and pain, but I was patient and loving, and he began to trust me again. When we finally made love, it was so intense. I wish I could say that I gave him the same good experience as the last time, but I was too overwhelmed with emotions. I was sobbing into his shoulder, and it took a long time before I could let him go. I think our marriage is stronger now,